Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It is Figure Friday once again. So, hopefully, I've got all the settings right, and if they're not, I do apologize. So, a bigger vehicle today. We do have all of this coming from the Vanguard lineup, the Action Force Vanguard series. The driver here is listed as being Reaper. And of course, out of their own storyline, which is not anything like what G.I. Joe is. To me, it's more of the United States is kind of broken up into different countries, and everything's kind of going on from there. So, just want to give that a little bit of an acknowledgement. Uh, the figures are, we've had a couple of these before. They are fully compatible with the G.I. Joe line for the 6-inch series, and they are a lot of fun. Gives us a little extra flavor, and of course, then we get a vehicle like this. Now, uh, initially saying here, the vehicle normally runs for about $150. This was on sale. I was actually able to pick up the vehicle and the missile launchers, which I do have here. They're just off camera from what you can see. And it was all 150 for everything. So it's on sale right now. So if you see this, feel that you want to try and take a chance on it. I have seen some reviews where people were saying that the axle was broken on it, but I've seen more reviews where they weren't. So uh, just keep in mind when we get this, this is all together. This is not something that we put together like what we do with the G.I. Joe vehicles. This is fully assembled. So let's get into it from there. We do have some stickers, so if you want to put some stickers on here, uh, everything from we have a student driver, we have hatches. Um, if you hear gunfire, you are too close. Action Force honor students. How's my driving? Swarm pest control. Some keep clear, caution blast, and some different symbols here for the Vanguard series. Now, me personally, they have the two different colored versions of this. This is the darker gray, and then they also have a light tan, more of a desert coloring, kind of like our base plate here for Reaper. But other than that, they're identical. And I just thought that this looks a little bit more like a standard vehicle that you might see on the road. A dark gray or something like that, not a big deal. So I just figured I'd get that one. Now, the nice thing is because we do have the different weapon systems that we can put on here, which we will get on here, uh, you can run it without them, and we do have a plate up here to do that. So let's start off with Reaper, and we'll get him kind of gone through like what we would normally do with a lot of our other figures. So we do have, the ankle here. So we can twist the ankle. So if he's sitting at a wider stance or narrow stance, the ankles move nice and fluidly. We do have a twist right here above the boot, and it is actually in with the pants. A little bit different from what we would normally see with the Joes. If it's being done, it's done right at the top of the boot. But, that's their way of doing it. It's not a bad thing. It's just saying that it is there. And, of course, he's got the double knee joint. And it looks like he's got another rotation just above the knee. Nope. It's actually in the calf, but it looks like there's something here. So maybe it's just how this is formed for the pocket, that it looks like there's a joint there, but there isn't. And, of course, he's got some knee pads there. And of course, then we have our classic, you know, hip and waist and all that, so he can do his kicks if we want him to do the kicks. And we do have the torso twist. Now, right here, we don't get as good of a torso twist as what we might on some of the Joes, but it seems like we do have a little bit more of a twist here, just underneath the breastbone there. So he's got that extra maneuverability in that regard. So he is nicely jointed. He could do his crunches if he's got to do his crunches. And then getting onto the arm. So we do have, as you can see, the double shoulder. so he can reach back just a little bit more if he's really trying to throw a haymaker, a grenade, or something like that. And then we have our rotation here on the upper arm, as well as having a double elbow, so if he's trying to get a drink, looks like he's trying to go for a cigarette. And then, of course, with our hand. And we do have extra hands that we can give him, whether you want him to punch. What else do we have? I think for like the stick shift, because when we get in there, we do have some different levers there. What else? This is like a different holding of a gun without a trigger. Here's another punch. And then the opposite side here. So wanting to just kind of give a little shout out that we do have different hands that we can put on there if that's what we want. And of course, we have a nice rotation on the head. And the head being what it is, it's kind of a generic figure in some regards. So if you're looking at it in the G.I. Joe line series, he would make a wonderful green shirt, just kind of like a motor pool variant for you. But you know, if you're doing this as a Vanguard, this is Reaper. Not a bad figure, good addition. For me, it would be a decent, just generic character, and going from there. And of course, then we have our base plate. So this is a different base plate than what we would typically get from Vanguard. This one's a little bit bigger and a few more kind of pegs here, so you can be at different angles or whatever else. Because in the back here we do, oops, I'm trying to get them on a rock. We do have 3 on each side here. Now this, on this side, is kind of staggered a little bit different. So, and it works pretty good. And of course, as we get to all the weapons that comes with the series, you know, he's got a pistol, but he does not have a holster. So with G.I. Joe, we have a ton of holsters, scabbards, and everything else for the guns, the knives, and all that stuff. We do not with Reaper here. So I would say that the pistol is going to be his personal weapon of choice, and then everything else is going to be more with the vehicle. And we do have quite a few weapons here for the vehicle itself. So let's get into the vehicle once I get his firearm in his hand, and it's not fitting as good as I want. All right. So looking at the vehicle itself, and I'll bring it forward a little bit more so I can reach it a little bit better. Hopefully I'm keeping everything in view, because that's the big concern here, because this is a bigger vehicle. Alright, so hopefully I can keep everything in view a little bit better. So we do have 4 doors here, and we do have a rear suicide door, mainly because it just kind of opens up, and you know, typically I don't know who came up with the idea or calling these suicide doors, but that's how I always remember them being called. Okay, so 4 doors. We do have a shovel here that does come off, so if he's got to dig himself out of being stuck, he can do that. As we look around, there's no real suspension here, but the front tires do turn some. So if we flip this on its side, so hopefully you can see, there is some pretty good molding down here. You can see the exhaust pipes going all the way through. And then we can see that this does have a little bit of turnability. Not a huge, it's not like he's taking wide, you know, nice tight turns like, you know, you might want to think of, but it is some turnability. I don't know if it actually I don't think it does. Never actually thought about this. Does it actually work with the steering wheel? Nope. No, it does. Okay. So it is in there with the steering wheel. The very tight turning. Not that I think I'm going to be able to have my hand in there and turn, but it is connected to that. So they did engineer it in that regard. And as we look at the front, it does have a nice view to it. To me, the vehicle itself reminds me of, I think Toyota had put out a SUV. The molding here is something similar to that in my mind, except it is a little bit longer. The Toyota kind of cuts back right after the back door, so it's not as flushed out for a rear area. Just, however. So I don't know whoever you want to say would be the manufacturer of this, if it matters to anyone whatsoever. We do have a winch in the front, and we do have turning knobs on both sides. So if you're, reaching from one side or the other, whether you're left or right-handed, you can easily get your winch to kind of tighten up here, which is kind of nice. So if we have him kind of stuck and he's got to try and get up a hill, we can do that. Nice sculpting for the headlights. I do like those. As on the other side, we do have foot pegs here. Very reminiscent to what G.I. Joe has always done. So yes, we can have 4 to 5 people inside, maybe even 6 if we cram someone in the back. And plus we also have 4 pegs here next to the doors, so we could have an additional 4 people. And getting into the trunk. So, Indy, you're not going to fit in the trunk here. I'm sorry to tell you that there, kitten, but you're just not going to fit in there. All right. So trying to get this, hopefully everyone can see. Now, we do have room here on the side, and there is supposed to be a spot for our gas cans. Once I get a tail out of the way, you silly. I'm going to be honest here. Yep, okay, I do feel where the gas can goes. It is kind of regressed in there a little bit, and I got my big hands and I'm trying to hold this up here, so it's not going to work at the moment. But this is, because it's notched out in here, it does have a spot to sit, one on either side. So we do have 2 gas cans and spots for them to go. You'll also know that we have a mounting stud here, and that is for either putting our machine guns on there, or we also have another mount. This is a door mount. I think we're supposed to be able to put this here. There it is. And then we could put our machine gun in the back. Indy's checking it out. All right, do we have enough room in there, dear Indy? You silly kitten. I think she believes she's the star of the show. I think so. And of course, my daughter's not home right now, so she wants to be as affectionate as possible. All right. So we do have an M60 machine gun, or what looks like an M60 machine gun. And then this is meant to be able to go up on here. And of course, we have an ammo box that we could attach to it. So, it gives us a little extra playability. Now, whoever's sitting back here, to me, is going to be a little on the scrunch side, but it is a possibility of having someone in the back as a rear gunner, trying to keep everyone safe. So we'll take this off so we can close that up. And we do have a longer ammo belt, so if you want just Reaper there to be carrying the M60, he could do that as well. And we do have a trailer hitch. So if we have any other G.I. Joe vehicles, if Vanguard comes up with any or whatever, or Action Force, we will be able to tow something. And this is very reminiscent to what G.I. Joe had done years ago, back in the 80s, with their tow hitch. So it's kind of nice in that regard. We have our gas cap here, and then the fun stuff is inside. So I think I got everything out from in there. Looking at everything, the doors are supposed to come off, so if you do want to rip the doors off, you can. Of course, because I'm not the most gentle person, I'm going to try and leave them on. Just wanting to make sure I don't mess everything up. Now we talked about the steering wheel being able to turn the tires. These look like they're fairly nicely molded seats. I don't know if they come out or not. This is jiggling just a little bit, that maybe you could rip out the seat if you wanted to. Probably because of it's molded and snapped in there. I'm not going to unsnap it and possibly break it. It does not move back or forward, although, I mean, it's got just a little play in there, but not bad really. And of course, it looks like we have a stick shift here. And it's got 2 cup holders, which I have a little bit of a laugh at, because we do actually have a Vanguard coffee cup that can go in there if, as I knock the camera around. And this is not easy with the bigger hands. This is a lot easier with kid-sized hands. Not sure. I had it in there and then I knocked it out. Ugh. All right, so I'll just have to kind of leave it out. But we do have a coffee cup here. To me, kind of like if you went to a McDonald's, a Starbucks, or whatever. And we have a Vanguard water bottle or soda can. So kind of nice to see that we have something like that. I think it's kind of a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing that, yes, you know, they're going to be wanting to have food or drink or whatever else. So we do have that available. And of course, if I can get this, you know, these do kind of snap in here a little bit. So I do want to let you know about that. We do have enough seating for 2 people in the back, 2 people in the front, and then whoever is going to be sitting on top is going to be all the way up there. All right, so we have this closed. So we can take this off. This does lightly snap in, not very hard, but very, you know, kind of lightly. So we could twist it if we wanted to. So we can take that off. These are loosely in here, and it's meant to be that way on purpose. Mainly because then we can put on our gunner spot. So we have an armored gunner spot with twin 50 caliber machine guns and ammo boxes. This will not pivot up and down, although we can go side to side. Now, I think twin 50 cal might be a little bit overdone, but I will say this: you could always fire one at one time, and then you could keep the other one ready for standby, depending on what kind of a firefight you're in, or if you hit a bigger vehicle, maybe you might want to hit both triggers at the same time. It's still kind of like a G.I. Joe-ish thing. Let's have, you know, if one is good, let's throw in a second one, right? So it's kind of that thought of it. And it looks like, you know, we do have a little bit of a seat here, so we can have whoever's sitting here. The legs are dangling down here in everybody's face. Chances are I might just try and put them so they go straight down and they're standing next to everyone, because I think that's how we typically would do it. I was never in a vehicle where we actually had that. Excuse me. Because I was a Bradley driver, so or I was a dismount, so I didn't have to worry about anything like this when I was in the service. And then we have the missile launcher. So the missile launcher, I just unboxed this. This came in on a separate day, so my wife is laughing at me when this all came in, and she's shaking her head. Of course, she's got to deal with an adult child like me. All right, I'm going to move this off to the back here. So we do have a 6-pack, 2 6-packs of missiles. So if we wanted to put this into G.I. Joe, we could easily do that. Or if we wanted to put it into Battletech, we could do that as well. And the nice thing is we do have our missiles here. This is the first time I've ever put them in there. I don't think that there's a launching mechanism on here. So I think that they're only going to go so far back. Now we do have missiles, separate ones, that are done up like this. So we can have them shooting out. Now, when we look at the missiles, these are the same sculpting, but it's got this built on. This is not coming off, and then that does sit down a little bit. So if I want to, I could do one side shooting and the other side not shooting. So and for the effects, I also have one heck of flashes for the 50 calibers. So if we want to put that on here as well. So I will say for what we have here, it's a nice looking vehicle. It is a great general purpose vehicle that we could either have it off to the side as just a vehicle to work around. We could put machine guns on here, missile launcher on here if we want to armor them up for one faction or the other. And we could kind of go from there. Now, one of the things I did want to show, because this is something that, it interests me as well. This is a bigger vehicle. So how big is it in comparison to what we've gotten from G.I. Joe? Now, I do not have, the G.I. Joe Jeep. And my mind is just drawing a blank here this morning, and it does from time to time. But I do have the Stinger, which is really based off of the same frame. Now, this is sitting a little bit more squat, and it is only a two-seater. It's also nice and dusty because it's sitting over by the rabbits, and unfortunately the rabbit food and all that does make a lot of dust. And I got dust bunnies. So, in comparability, this is really a smaller vehicle. It always has been. Just being a two-door, it has that two-door look, right? I mean, it's really shortened because we have the two doors here that we don't have on our Stinger. So when we compare it, this is all size comparable, and it's something I think of from time to time. I mean, this is kind of based off of more of, it could still be an off-road body frame, but it's still sitting a little bit more squat, which does make a little bit more sense for Cobra. Hey, we can sneak in, cause all of our trouble, and then sneak on out. Likewise, and it is funny when we see these going down the road. Hey, I'm in a small town, so I do see these side by side at times. Okay, you get your four-wheeler, and we do have guys riding four-wheelers through town because it's legal in my town, but they run under the scooter laws, so they can only go so fast on the road or whatever, just like UTVs and everything else. So yes, it is an interesting thing being in small town America. I will see people on four-wheelers driving downtown, and it does look very much like this. So my downtown can be kind of funny at times, and then of course you throw in the tractors, because we have the farmers. Things that I never thought of when I was in a city when I was a kid, but growing up the rest of the way in a small town, it's become a normal thing. So everything is size comparable, and it does really fit in. So I wanted to kind of show you. So if you're thinking about it, right now it is on sale. And keep in mind, if you get this off of Amazon, you're looking at almost $100. I think it is on sale for about $90 right now. And if I ever find any of the Tiger Patrol, Tiger Rat here, or not Tiger Rat, anyways, usually people are asking for about $130 for these. So, if we're talking about price point, these have really been price gouged. But if you're trying to get one of these, and you look at the price for the Vanguard Jeep here, it's really comparable. I mean, it's sad to say it that way. Honestly, I think these should be $50. These should be $30. These were originally supposed to be about $50. When I got these, they were selling these for $100. So I picked up the two, And then I finally decided, well, that's on sale, so I will pick that up with the missile launcher. So depending on what's going on, I can do whatever, and we have that available. Um, it's still a lot of money. It's definitely not something I think we're going to be getting for the kids, which I think is where we're really missing the point here. Um, it's nice to have the bigger vehicles. The action figures are a lot of fun, but I think we're pricing out the kids, which is really where we need to get the fan base going again. Because if we want this long term, even for us adults as collectors, as Hasbro as a company, we need to get this down to having the kids wanting these. We need to get the good cartoons going again. Granted, we have the old 1980s cartoons, which are still fun and wonderful to watch. I always knew some of the stories were a little silly at times, but you know what? It's it's a cartoon. When I watch things as a cartoon, it doesn't always have to be serious. Sometimes we can throw in some slapstick humor in that. I'm fine with that. I think when we get into a little bit more live action, if it bills it as a serious show, I want it to be serious. If it bills itself as a sillyish show, a little lighthearted, a little bit of tongue in cheek or whatever, I'll give it a little bit more of a pass because that's how they build themselves. So just kind of keeping it in those regards. So, with that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's wonderful having you here. Hopefully, this gives you ideas. I know that you could still find the Stinger on Amazon. As far as our four-wheeler for Tiger Force, that is a hit and miss. Sometimes you'll find one on there, sometimes you don't. So you really have to kind of look around. And of course, Vanguard, if you're looking for that, look under Action Force and you'll usually find it that way. And there are two different colors, so if you want a tan, you can get a tan, and if you want the dark gray like what I've got, they do have that as well. So with that, we'll see you in the next video.